Aita for not agreeing to house my pregnant teenage sister and her delinquent boyfriend after our parents disowned her. My family and I grew up very poor. From when I was old enough to legally work, I, female, 19, have had to take on multiple jobs while balancing school to help with my family and my younger sister. Growing up, I never had a lot, and whatever money I earned I would spend on my sister, 16, female, and family. When I was 18 and had just been accepted into college, my dad's business that he'd worked on for the past couple of years finally took off. This also meant that my sister could now have a normal high school experience without worrying about money. While I was in college, I wasn't in contact with my sister that much since I was so busy with schoolwork. However, from our calls and her social media, I could tell she had changed completely and was involved with some bad people. She would post videos on her Snapchat of her getting drunk, smoking weed, juuling, driving while most likely drunk, high, etc. I tried reaching out to her, but she would mostly deny the claims and told me to mind my own business. At some point, she justified her actions using the argument, "This is what the cool kids do now. Not everyone was a nerd like you in high school." One of my high school friends who also has a brother in the same grade reached out to me and said that she heard that my sister was seeing a sketchy guy from another school. Apparently he sells drugs and was expelled from my sister's high school. I asked my sister about this and she denied it. Last week I got a phone call from my mom who was sobbing. She tells me that my sister is pregnant. I was so shocked that I could not speak. Then I was angry. When I was her age and even younger, I gave her everything, and so did my parents, so she could have all the opportunities her peers had. Since my dad's business became lucrative, they've given her every opportunity to succeed. Any extracurricular, sport she wants, academic tutoring, school activities, etc. I never got any of those things. It angered me so much that she took all of this for granted and fricked up her life. The father, her delinquent boyfriend who got expelled and sells drugs. She blows up my phone but I don't respond. She then sends me a series of long text messages asking if she can crash at my place. She also asked me if I could make an appointment to see a doctor. Lastly, she asked if it would be okay if her boyfriend comes and stays over sometimes. I shut her down. I told her that you dug this hole for yourself. If you allow yourself to become pregnant, then you should be able to deal with the consequences. Also, I'm currently sharing a small apartment with 2 roommates. She begged some more and I denied her. In the past few days, she's been texting me and calling me non-stop saying that she has nowhere to go and has been living in her boyfriend's car. I haven't responded to a single message of hers, but I feel my resolve wavering a bit. I fully don't support her, but maybe I'm being an idiot. Edit. To clarify, I would still never house her in my apartment. That would be extremely disrespectful towards my roommates and would get me kicked out due to the lease agreement. I meant I was considering giving in and sending her some money. Edit 2. My parents have disowned her, not kicked her out. They are refusing to acknowledge that she is their daughter, but she is still welcome to live in their house. She chose not to since my parents are absolutely fuming and probably will yell at her and criticize her, which she honestly needs. Update. It's been a little bit more than 2 weeks since my first post, and I guess it's safe to say now that the situation has been resolved in probably the best way possible. In my last post, I stated that my sister was still living in the car of her delinquent boyfriend who sells drugs and refusing to come home because my parents had disowned her. At this point, I would like to clarify that my family and I are Chinese, and it is common in Chinese culture to disown your kids when they do something that largely disappoints or embarrasses you. However, this is not a permanent disownment like many of you have brought up. As long as my sister apologizes sincerely and they can see that she is actively trying to fix her mistake and become better, they will take her back as their daughter. Another clarification would be for those people who assumed that my dad kept us poor since he was stubborn and wanted to work on his business and not get a real job. His business was a passion project on the side. My dad was working 50 hours a week at 2 jobs. Alrighty, on to what ultimately happened with my sister. Despite the chain of advice I sent her, she ignored me still. I regularly checked in with her over the next week to see how she was, and she gave me one-word replies until they ultimately stopped. I was growing concerned after she didn't pick up her cell. But then I received a call from my parents. According to my mom, my sister had returned home crying and begging for forgiveness. She had a serious talk with my parents where she apologized for her behavior and promised to make amends. My mom was very tearful as well. They scheduled a doctor's appointment for her immediately, and I believe she went in the next day. I had no idea what made her finally break and return home, so I texted her. First, I told her I was proud of her for taking action and being mature, and asked if anything happened between her and her boyfriend. At first she was pretty stubborn and kept insisting that she was just over living in a car. But after a while she finally admitted that her boyfriend had requested that she start selling for him if she wanted to keep living in his car and eating his food that he was sneaking her. LMAO, what a freaking idiot. Glad my sister finally returned to her senses. She told me she broke it off with him, and I sincerely hope that's the truth. This past Monday, she got the pills to successfully terminate her pregnancy. According to my mom, she was begging that they do it ASAP, which was really a breath of relief for all of us because we were worried she might want to keep it. The future seems pretty bright right now for her. My parents decided to pull her out of the public school and send her to a progressive private school that some of my close friends also went to. It's a fantastic school, and I think it'd be great for her. She's officially starting next Monday. I'm going to visit her and my family this weekend and see how she's doing. TLDR, sis returned home safely and apologized to parents. Delinquent BF was forcing her to sell drugs for him in repayment for the hospitality that he has provided her in the form of the backseat of his car in McDonald's. Sis terminated the pregnancy and will be attending a new school next week. Edit. Forgot to add that the new school also has a wonderful counseling department. I urged my parents to speak to the head psychologist there and they did, and she will be having mandatory weekly meetings with her and another therapist at the school. About the idiot. While I'm glad she's home and the worst has been avoided, I really wonder if the underlying issues will be addressed. The whole family dynamic does not sound healthy, traditional or not. And in addition, your sister has gone through a lot, from being disowned, all that poop with her boyfriend, and now the abortion. Please check up on her regularly to make sure she's coping alright, and I would very strongly suggest getting her a therapist or at least a school counselor to talk to. Ideally family therapy too, but I don't know if your parents would be open for that at all. At the end of the day, she is only 16 and all of this went past typical teenage rebellion. If the underlying causes are not addressed, it won't matter that she changed schools, the problems will still be there. Also, an abortion can be very traumatizing and just confusing with all the emotions involved, even when the woman wants it and has planned it well. Your sister didn't have much of a choice, no good choices anyway, and she is still very young. She really needs an adult who she can trust to talk to about all of her feelings and issues without judgment. Did Opus handle this the right way? Let me know in the comments. Now, Aita for not sending my dog to boarding while my BF's mother visits. Background: I adopted my dog, Tank, when I was 20. He had minor issues, leash walking and prey drive. Issues I fixed. This dog is a saint, never bit anyone or shown aggression. He is a very well-trained dog. He's now 5 years and 60 pounds. Now, my boyfriend, male, 24, and I, female, 24, live in an apartment with my dog. We moved in together last year, but we've been dating for 4 years. In December, my BF's mom invited herself to come visit in July, provided everything is good by then. Now, when she decided this, we were under the impression she would stay at a hotel or something. We live in a very small 2-bedroom apartment, but we use the second room as a shared office space. But whatever, we'll deal. We can throw in a bed and move the room around. But 3 weeks ago, she was talking to my BF saying she would be staying for 2 weeks because she wanted to sightsee. We live in a city, and because she really wanted to be with us. I could tell he was happy about this because he misses her and he doesn't get to see her a lot because we live far away from her. I wasn't going to argue with it, I know it makes him happy. But then she called again last week, and she told my BF she wouldn't feel comfortable if Tank was in the apartment with her because he's big and you can't trust dogs like that. She said she didn't feel comfortable with his size or breed. She said that he could be unpredictable because I got him at a yearish age and don't know about his past. She asked my BF if he would have my dog boarded the whole time while she was here. He brought it up 3 days ago and I immediately said no. He asked me if I would think about it and I said no again. Now he's angry with me. I'm fine with her staying with us. Fine with her staying for 2 weeks. Fine with having to move our office around and buy a bed to accommodate her. I'm fine with her staying here by herself while we're at work. I'm fine with all of that. But I drew the line at leaving the Tank at a boarding facility for 2 weeks straight. I've never done something like that with him. I don't want to risk anything. I even looked into it, just at the pricing, and it's too expensive. This is his home. He deserves to stay here. I've never had a problem with her before, but this is ridiculous. She's never met Tank in person before, but she gets a lot of pictures and videos of him. And when we video chat with her, sometimes he joins in. She's never said anything about her concerns before. I feel like she's judging him before she even meets him. He isn't a bad dog, but she doesn't want him at the apartment while he's there at all. Am I the idiot because I won't board Tank while she visits? Update. After a week of angry silence, waiting for each other to bring this up, I bypassed my BF and went to his mom. I reached out, talked about her feelings for Tank. It started out pleasant. Then I told her that BF said she wanted my dog boarded. I asked why she didn't feel comfortable with Tank. Direct quote. You don't know what his past is. He's big and unpredictable and I don't want to be staying with that. It would be different if you knew, but you don't. I just don't feel comfortable sharing a space with a dog that may attack me for going pee in the middle of the night or grabbing a cup of water. I was angry and didn't want to scream and make her upset, so I very politely said if you don't feel comfortable living with Tank for 2 weeks, even though your own son has been since August, you can stay in a hotel when you visit. And I hung up on her. The F got home a few hours later and was angry because I talked to her, made her upset and hung up on her. Now she thinks I hate her. He said I wasn't being fair to her. I asked why he wanted me to board the Tank so badly. BF knows he wouldn't attack her or do anything aggressive towards her. And all he had to say was boiled down to can't you just do it to make this whole thing easier. He's a dog. We argued. At some point, in circles, how Tank is a dog. He doesn't get rights in the apartment. And things got worse when I asked what would happen in the future if we were still together and she decided to visit when we were living in a house. He said that would be different because we could put him in another room or something. So, my dog has to be penalized for living in our home with us when your mom visits. I said it in my last post and I'll say it again. When I adopted Tank, I took on the responsibility of taking care of him, making him my first priority, treating him with respect as he is a living creature. I see him as I would a child. I do the same things for him as someone does for a child. He is family, 4 paws or not. I made a clear choice that night. While his mother may still be visiting whenever it is safe to do so, it won't be in this apartment. We came to the truth. This and other things we talked about are big and can't be ignored. We realized we don't want the same things, and that's not something you can compromise on. So this all started with my what I thought would eventually be my future mother-in-law wanting me to board my dog, and ended up with me and BF mutually breaking up after 4 years of dating. We understand in the long run, it wouldn't have worked out. Thank you Reddit for making me realize we needed to have this conversation. It was important, and I'm glad it was done now and not later on down the road. Not the idiot. You're doing yourself a huge favor. If his go-to move is caving to her outrageous demands because it's easier, that's not changing anytime soon. His priorities and his mother are whack, and though breakups are hard, your life will be much better for it. Not the idiot. You handled the whole thing so well. I'm sorry that you ended up having to break up. But I'm so glad that you stuck up for yourself and didn't mistreat your dog just to please someone. You sound like a wonderful person and a great dog parent. Does she love her dog too much? Let me know in the comments. Now, Aita for not wanting to share a room with stepbrother anymore after he came out. My dad got married over a year ago. His wife moved in with her son who's the same age as me, 16. It's a 2-bedroom house, so Steven moved into my room too. It didn't bother me before because I was mostly with my mom and my dad only on weekends. My mom got called out of state for work and she's not gonna be back for months, so I'm now with him full time. I've met Steven a few times, but now being here all the time I notice weird stuff. There's a bathroom in my room and he literally gets out naked every single time, even when I was already in the room before he went in. I always tell him what the fuck and he says sorry but always does it. Now I just leave the room when he showers. When I play video games, he'll come sit right next to me and we're pressed right against each other. There's more space on the couch, so it bothers me that he does that. Other times he'll be talking to me and put his hand right on my lap and not move it. I don't know if it's weird for me because I don't like being touched, but he's always super touchy with me no matter how many times I tell him I hate it. What's made it really uncomfortable is when I change or something in the room. He straight up watches me and it creeps me out, so now I go do that in the bathroom too. It's always weird when he's around and I just don't like it. And he always wants to be around me. He came out 2 months ago and now some stuff makes sense. It's more awkward because I feel like he's into me or something. Still stares if he comes in when I'm changing my clothes but acts like he wasn't. Gets naked around me when he's changing. So I told my dad I don't want to share my room with him anymore and told him why. My dad doesn't think it's wrong the way he is, but let me turn the basement downstairs into my own room when I asked him. It was a TV room we never used and it had lots of space for my bed and all my other stuff. Steven's mad now that I don't want to share a room with him. He says I'm being homophobic cause what a coincidence, I'm only doing it now after he came out. His mom is mad too and thinks I'm overreacting because boys change in locker rooms together all the time, so that shouldn't make me uncomfortable. She says too that I'm being weird only because he's gay. But I was always uncomfortable in locker rooms too. And plus he straight up walks around naked in front of me, which I don't like. It's tense at home with them both saying I'm being homophobic, and Steven says I'm hurting his feelings by not wanting to share that space anymore. I didn't like any of the stuff he was doing even before he came out. But now I've just got to where I'm fed up with it. Knowing that he's gay just made me start to wonder if it was all being done on purpose. So I don't know. Am I being an idiot? So thanks everyone for supporting me through this cause. I felt like I was losing it with everyone at home making me feel like poop. It helped a lot that people understood what I was dealing with and didn't make me feel bad for feeling the way I do. Some comments were saying I needed to tell my mom about what was going on since she didn't know, even though I felt bad about it. A day after I posted, I told her, first about the way Steven was acting with me, and then how they were all giving me poop about being homophobic since I decided to move out of my room after he came out. She was pissed off. She told me to put my dad on and I could hear her yelling at him from the phone when I gave it to him. My dad wasn't happy and they were arguing for like a half hour. But he said he was sorry for not really doing much for me about Steven, and my mom says she doesn't want me there because of Steven. She doesn't like that I'm sleeping in the basement and doesn't know if it's even safe for me down there since it's an old basement. My mom told me she wants me over there with her, but only if I want to. School is online and I don't see any of my friends anyways, so it wouldn't be a big deal if I stayed with her. I talked to my dad and then to my mom. He was mad that I wanted to go with her, but he didn't tell me anything else. She drove all the way back here and picked me up on Thursday. Been here at the hotel she is staying at since Friday. It's more chill, to be honest. I'm here alone most of the time since my mom has to work all day, so I like the privacy. I've talked to my dad and he says they're gonna talk to Steven. I don't know how that's gonna go when my stepmom was still all defensive about him when I left. We'll see, I guess. I don't know how long we'll be here. I think another 2-3 months, but at least I'm not there at my dad's for now with all that misery. That's all I wanted to say, since everyone was really helpful about what I should do and how I don't need to be dealing with that poop. Not the idiot. I am so happy your mom was totally on your side. She needs a huge hug for being super mom for her son. I'm glad you told your mom and were able to leave because your first post made my stomach turn. because you were being sexually harassed in your own home. This update is amazing and you have a fantastic mother. Talk to your dad and try to tell him you still love him, but him not defending you is what made you want to leave. Not the idiot. Good update. Glad to hear you got away from that situation. Ike, what country you're in, but I would guess that 16 is old enough to legally stay at your mom's if you want to. Personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable going back into that mess for a long time. And that's assuming your dad has an epiphany and realizes how severely he has failed as a father. Keep in mind that if you do ever want to see your dad, you can make plans to go out and do things with him without actually being at his house and without Steven being around.